Hi, I'm Charlotte. I'm 26 years old and I'm not married. I don't work full-time. I've mostly stayed at home since I was in middle school. I went to high school for a while, but then I stopped. So I only finished middle school. Since then, I've lived with my parents, done some part-time jobs, and found work online. I have a brother named Sawyer, who is 3 years older than me. He's very different from me. He's good at sports, has lots of friends, and is outgoing. He never wanted people to know that he had a sister like me. He never brought his friends home. And if we happened to meet at the store, he ignored me. I thought it was just how things were, like someone else's problem. When my brother went to college and moved out, I stopped worrying about it. Then he talked about getting married. He's turning 29, so it wasn't a surprise. Later, he decided to bring his fiancée to our parents' house. Since I was home that day, I decided to join them. "Hi, Mom, Dad, I'm back," I said. My brother arrived on time, and when he saw me sitting with our parents, he looked confused for a moment. "Sorry for the interruption," his fiancée said as she came in, not noticing my brother's reaction. Then she looked at me and seemed puzzled. I could tell from her eyes that she was asking my brother, "Who is this?" He probably hadn't told her about me. "Thanks for coming. I'm Sawyer's mom, and this is his dad." My mother introduced herself and my father. The fiancé looked polite but still confused. My dad didn't speak up for me. My parents have always been tough on me because I couldn't be as successful as my brother. They used to compare us, saying things like, "Your brother can do it, why can't you?" But as we got older, it got worse. They even called me a money-sucking leech. It seemed like they were going to ignore me at this meeting too. When my mom got up to leave, she whispered to me, "Why are you here? Go back to your room." I came to the meeting hoping to connect with my family, but it didn't go well. I felt like I couldn't just leave, so I stayed. My brother's fiancée, Isabella, introduced herself. She was my age, 26, and very beautiful. She had a sophisticated vibe that made me feel like I shouldn't talk to her casually. My brother seemed annoyed, probably because I was there. He introduced Isabella to our parents but didn't talk to me at all. It felt like I was invisible. After they finished talking about the wedding, they started chatting casually, but my brother still acted like I wasn't there. "What do you usually do, Charlotte?" Isabella asked me. But before I could answer, my brother interrupted, saying, "Don't worry about talking to her, Isabella." Isabella seemed surprised by his interruption. "Yeah, don't worry about it," my mom added. Then my dad said, "She's just a stranger who happens to be related by blood." When he said that, it felt like something inside me broke. A stranger? That's what they thought of me. It was clear that reconciliation was never an option. The meeting ended as if my presence didn't matter at all. Soon after, my brother and Isabella got married and started building their own house. My brother works at a big company, and even though he's still young, he earns a good income. Isabella decided to be a stay-at-home wife and quit her job. When her house was finished, we got an invitation to a housewarming party. It would be a small gathering with Isabella's family and my brother's bosses. My mom got worried, saying, "Oh, it's already time for the housewarming party. Time flies. We should get a gift." My dad said, "We're family, so it doesn't have to be fancy," and flipped over the invitation casually. Only my parents' names were on it. Mine was missing. My mom seemed to notice but asked, "Charlotte is coming too, right?" I wasn't sure what she meant. They hadn't exactly treated me well at the meeting. "It's okay if I'm not invited," I said, but my mom insisted, "No, you're coming. I'll make sure of it." So I ended up going to the party. On the day of the party, it suddenly started raining. We took a taxi to my brother's house. Because of the rain, my brother and his wife stayed inside to greet guests at the entrance. When we arrived, my mom said to me, "You pay for the taxi," and she and my dad hurried towards the entrance without umbrellas. "Ah, now I understand," I thought to myself. My brother's house was quite far from ours, so it seemed a bit extravagant to take a taxi. Yet I was the one who had to pay for it. After settling the taxi fare, I hurried towards the entrance, and Isabella asked me, "Who are you?" I had only met Isabella once before, so maybe she forgot me, I thought. So I introduced myself, saying, "I'm Charlotte, Sawyer's sister." But she replied with a smile, "Ah, Nate's sister, the one who dropped out of high school. We didn't invite the freeloader living off their parents." Isabella said this casually, still smiling. My brother had just come back from welcoming someone inside when he saw me and asked with disgust, "What are you doing here?" "Sawyer, I told you not to invite her." "Why is she here?" "I don't know. my brother replied. It seemed like you didn't want me there after all, and Isabella's attitude changed once she found out about me. She was even worse than my brother and parents. I wondered if it would have been better if I hadn't come and cautiously asked my brother. Yeah, you're basically a stranger because you didn't finish high school. Not finishing high school doesn't count as an education, right? Can you please leave quickly? Isabella added, backing up my brother. Her calm expression the whole time was really scary. Okay, I said quietly and turned around. The taxi we came in earlier was gone, and since we weren't on a main street, finding another one seemed hard. I didn't have an umbrella. I started walking, getting soaked in the rain. I could hear Isabella laughing behind me. After a while, I got back home. My parents returned looking happy. They saw my face and asked, "Why did you leave so suddenly? Couldn't you at least call a taxi to get back?" "You're so useless," my mom complained, as if it was nothing unusual. "Sorry, I suddenly got a stomach ache." I lied to cover up the real reason. "You left just because of that. You're hopeless. Make sure to give the gift later. You're an adult," my dad scolded me. Speaking of which, I had prepared a gift for the party, but I ended up bringing it back without giving it. I wanted to send it by mail, but I didn't know the address. I thought about asking my parents for the address, but the tension at home made it awkward. So I reached out to my brother instead. "I want to send a gift. Can you tell me the address?" His only response was, "I don't give my address to strangers, right?" I sighed. Was it really enjoyable for him to assert dominance over me in private, not just embarrassing me in front of others? It was bewildering. Maybe it wasn't just my brother behind these messages. Perhaps Isabella was also involved, laughing along. Either way, it felt ridiculous. I gave up on sending a congratulatory gift for my brother's housewarming party. I realized I couldn't get along with my family anymore, so I made the decision to move out. I didn't have a full-time job, but I had some savings from my part-time work. With that, I managed to rent a room to live on my own. Since it wasn't enough to cover all my expenses, I decided to try streaming videos in my free time. I had always enjoyed watching streams as a hobby and had a knack for spotting trends among popular streamers and boosting views. When I started streaming myself, I began earning tens of thousands of dollars a month. That income kept growing, enough to cover all my living expenses. I decided to invest the money I had saved up. The investments turned out to be successful, so I decided to venture into running a small company that imports and sells goods. I kept myself busy in a good way and felt fulfilled every day. Unlike having a family that would complain about me spending too much time on the computer, I enjoyed my freedom. A few months later, I got a call from my parents, who hadn't reached out to me since I moved out. "We need your help with Sawyer's finances," they said. "Why?" I asked, genuinely curious. I couldn't understand why my brother, who had just built a new house, would need financial assistance. Slowly, my parents began to explain the situation. It turned out that my brother had been throwing frequent parties at his new house, mingling with various people like bosses, executives, clients, and Isabella's friends. During one of these gatherings, someone pitched an investment opportunity to him, and my brother ended up trusting it. He ended up losing a large amount of money, enticed by the promise of quick returns in just a few months. I was surprised. My brother had a good job, so if he had just focused on working hard, he wouldn't have made such a mistake. It was a pity. "Who recommended this investment? Is it a scam?" I asked. "No, it's not. It's someone Isabella knows," my parents replied, showing complete trust in Isabella. "How much do you need?" I asked, shocked by the amount. It was more than what an average employee could easily afford. "Is that really the amount my brother needs alone?" I asked my parents hesitantly, fearing the answer. We were also introduced to the same investment, my parents admitted after a pause. "I can't come up with that much money so easily." "Sorry," I said, trying to end the call. But they insisted, saying, "We're your real family. Help us out in times like these." Real family? Too little, too late. "Sorry, but I'm busy and I'm a stranger to you, right?" With that, I hung up the phone. Later on, they somehow found out where I work, and my parents' and brother's families showed up at my office. I was in the middle of a business meeting when my secretary informed me, "There are guests here for you, President. I don't have any other appointments." "Who are they?" I asked. "They say they're your family, ma'am," my secretary replied. I felt a shiver run down my spine. I apologized to my business partner and stepped out of the meeting momentarily. When I reached the reception area, I saw my pregnant sister-in-law Isabella, my brother, and my parents waiting. So you're running a company now, huh? Well, it's much smaller than where I work. My brother smirked, glancing around my office. Who are you? I asked, pretending I didn't recognize them. What's with the attitude? My brother shouted, losing his temper. My mother stepped in, saying, we've discussed this before, but we really need your help. Since you're running the company, you can support us, right? She shamelessly asked for money, acting like it was the most natural thing in the world. Yeah, it's a crucial time for our family. Isabella is pregnant, but the baby's health isn't good, so we need to see a specialist. Please, Charlotte. My father and Isabella joined in, making it seem like it was my responsibility to cover everyone's expenses. Employees passing by glanced over with concern. Wanting to deal with the situation quickly, I said, please leave, you're causing a disturbance. My brother exploded with anger again. What? We're a disturbance. We came all this way, and that's how you talk to your family, he yelled. The passing employees stopped to face them, and my brother began to cause a scene. Did you all know this girl dropped out of middle school? She was a shut-in no good. He seemed determined to humiliate me into giving him money. However, the employees responded in a way my brother didn't expect. We know, everyone knows. The president's background, even mine. The president hires many people from similar situations. Is there a problem? My brother, who usually only socializes with highly educated and wealthy people, seemed taken aback and started to stutter. Meanwhile, my father remarked, what a pathetic company, just a gathering of misfits. Exactly, companies that do business with a place like this can't be any good either. My brother added, shouting loudly. At that moment, the president of the company, the person I was meeting with, who had been waiting in the reception room, came out, clearly hearing the commotion. My brother's expression turned blank and then pale as he looked at the man. He couldn't meet his gaze and lowered his eyes. What's wrong, Sawyer? Isabella asked him. Don't call me that, my brother whispered to Isabella, but it was too late. Sawyer? Oh, it's you. The company president approached my brother and scrutinized his face. You're Mr. Long, the division manager, right? We owe a lot to your company. It turned out that his company was also a client of my brother's company. My brother was sweating profusely, his face turning red. Yes, well, I guess I'm not very memorable. Since we're not a decent company, my brother stammered, frozen in place when the president turned his own words against him. My father, mother, and Isabella sensed the tension and fell silent. Ignoring them, I apologized to the president again, saying I'm sorry for taking up your valuable time. I'll ask them to leave. Oh, are you sure? I have time today, so I don't mind waiting. You can prioritize talking with your family, the president replied. No, they're not my family, I said, glancing at my parents and brother's family. They're complete strangers. After that, my parents and brother's family were asked to leave the company. Perhaps stunned by the exchange with the company president, they left quietly. Curious about how my job was exposed, I looked into it and found out that Isabella was the cause. She had a friend who was well informed about investment-related information and always kept her ears open. This friend came across a young woman in her 20s who was making a name for herself as a talented trader and company owner. Isabella was surprised when she saw a photo of this woman in the media and realized that she was her husband's sister, whom she had heard was a middle school dropout and no good. Isabella then told my brother and parents about this and suggested they ask me for money, since I was busy during the day and didn't answer the phone, and I didn't call them back after they asked me for money. They came to my company. Seeing that I had been treating them like complete strangers, I decided not to get involved with them anymore. However, I couldn't help but look into Isabella's involvement further. I was curious about Isabella's friend who played a role in my family's financial troubles. It turned out that this friend was actually Isabella's ex-boyfriend, and they still seemed to be involved. Shockingly, the child Isabella was carrying wasn't my brother's but the child of that investor. My brother was devastated to learn the truth, understandably so, as everything had been a lie. Additionally, it seemed that Isabella had been scamming money from several other men under the guidance of her ex-boyfriend. Consequently, my brother and Isabella got a divorce, and both of them are now in police custody. Unfortunately, the lost money won't be returned anytime soon. Following the incident at my company, my brother's situation at his workplace worsened. He was transferred to a less prestigious department and eventually resigned. Similarly, my father faced troubles at work when the president witnessed him losing his temper with a subcontractor. After investigating his behavior, he was fired. Apparently, he had been making derogatory remarks about people with lower education levels, similar to what he used to say to me. So both my brother and father ended up losing their jobs. Despite their reduced income, my former family still tries to contact me, suggesting that we live together. However, I have banned them from entering my company's building, so they can't force their way in anymore. Despite their efforts, my response remains the same. I don't know you, you're complete strangers to me. I have no intention of changing my stance in the future.